Good evening. On behalf of Kathleen and me, thank you for attending tonight's town hall event concerning bullying. I commend Cox Communications for airing tonight's town hall. Sadly, about 71% of students report bullying as an ongoing problem in school, and every 7 minutes, a child is bullied on the playground. 85% of the time, there is no intervention. Kathleen and I share the concerns of all of you, and we're hoping to make Nevada a bully-free zone for all of our children. I'm looking forward to signing a proclamation on Monday declaring next week a week of respect. And I ask everyone to join me in setting an example for our kids. We must flip the script. Good luck with tonight's town hall, and thank you for all you do.
Bullying. It's a problem in our state, our communities, and our schools, impacting our families. What can be done? How do we stop it? Tonight, we will look into bullying with a panel of experts, as well as young people and families impacted. This is Flip the Script, an anti-bullying town hall meeting live from Del Sol High School in Las Vegas.
30% of all students, grades 6 to 12, are bullied. 84% of LGBT young people say they've been bullied. Each day, 160,000 young people skip school in America because they fear being bullied. These are not just statistics. They are lives, children, young people who face threats each and every day. Those threats come in many ways: physical, cyberspace, harassment, and they all create harm, sometimes deadly. Good evening, I'm Steve Shore, and tonight, in a first-of-its-kind cable program, this town hall will be shown throughout the state of Nevada live through Cox Communications in southern Nevada and Charter Communications in northern and rural Nevada. We'll have a panel of experts to talk about bullying. We'll hear from concerned young people and those who have been bullied. And we hope to help come together and come with a direction to halt this ever-growing trend. We believe the time has come to halt this epidemic, to flip the script on bullying. The statistics you just saw are true. What is worse is they represent lives of young people, our children, our grandchildren, our neighbors, our friends. What can be done? What is being done right now? Well, tonight we'll have two panels who will share their thoughts. We have experts in our audience. The second panel will be young people, those impacted, affected by this epidemic. But our first panel tonight involves local and state experts who've been dealing with these issues over and over again. Let me introduce them to you. Catherine Cortez Masto is Nevada's Attorney General. As the state's chief law enforcement officer, she has sought to meet the issues head on. A lifelong advocate for women and children, she's put together an advisory committee to deal with bullying. Nevada Senator David Parks is a 43-year resident of our state and has seen bullying firsthand. He helped spearhead an effort at the state legislature to bring bullying to the forefront, no longer to be hidden. Phyllis Friedman is the director of the Anti-Defamation League, a teacher for many years. She's seen bullying in schools and the classrooms. Now, she and her organization help lead the fight against bullying. Josh Miller is the president and CEO of the Key State Company's human rights campaign known as HRC. He has worked diligently to bring to Southern Nevada the HRC's Welcoming School program. That program is a national anti-bullying effort. Pedro Martinez is deputy superintendent of the Clark County School District. He led a massive initiative to raise graduation rates in Nevada and now works to keep our schools and our children safe in Clark County. Sharita Diaz is program coordinator for the Village of Hope, a program like none other that seeks to empower children in after-school programs in order to bring about their success and their safety. And Lisa Primus is the principal right here at Del Sol High School. She's made the anti-bullying effort a priority at her school, and I should mention, was the first to volunteer her school for tonight's town hall. To all of you, welcome. And Madam Attorney General, I'm going to begin with you tonight. There was a concert this weekend here in Las Vegas, and it was a huge musical concert. And at that concert, an incredible star by the name of Lady Gaga, who herself was the victim of bullying almost all of her life, and I think it bears it out that she was, dedicated her show to a 14-year-old, Jimmy Rodemeyer, who took his own life because of being bullied. And she said something at the show that really, really struck me. She said at the show, Jamie is not a victim. He's a lesson. We hear about bullying. You're involved in bullying. Is it a lesson? And what do we have to do from your end to make it a lesson so we don't have more victims like Jamie?
Sure. And let me just say, first of all, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that she had to highlight the death of a young person as a result of bullying. But more importantly, it's a positive because that shows that our community is now understanding and making this issue an awareness issue for all of us. And let me just say, it is a serious problem here in Nevada. But more importantly, we need to take it seriously. I go around this state and I talk to our young students in the middle schools and the high schools, and I will tell you, everyone I've talked to has had some form or fashion of, or seen some form of bullying or cyberbullying. I've seen a statistic that scares me, and it basically says that 1 in 7 students is either a victim or a bully. Now, we all know what bullying is like, and when I grew up, it was in the playground. But because of the new technology that we all have through the computers and our PDAs, we are now broadening the audience for that type of bullying. And the meanness that occurs because of the bullying has a devastating impact on our children, on their emotional and physical well-being. And we've seen the tragic results of that impact.
Okay, I've got to ask the panel, all of you, this didn't happen overnight. It wasn't here today, but it wasn't here yesterday. This has been a growing issue. Senator, you and I up in Carson City have we've talked about this, you and I. This is not an issue that you brought up just at this past legislature. Right. You brought it up to legislature, to legislature, to legislature. And not until now has something been done. If it took so long for this town hall to take place, This is not something we're going to eradicate overnight, is it?
Definitely not. Thanks, Steve. My first attempt was 10 years ago when I got the first bill passed, and it came out of a dinner discussion I had with some friends who were educators, and they indicated that it was a situation then, and their big concern was that they didn't feel that they were getting the support from the administrators to be able to do anything. And so Nevada's passed 3 laws, and their latest law mirrors the bill that was passed in New Jersey, which is considered the best legislation in the country. So I think we're well on our way. But education is a big factor, and certainly awareness by the public in general.
Superintendent Martinez, as I said in the beginning, 160,000 students every day skip school because they fear bullying. Some of the 160,000 are right here in Clark County, or they're in Elko, or they're in Ely, or they're in Reno, or Winnemucca. What are the schools doing? I mean, seriously.
Sure.
I mean, since we announced this program, I've received emails, blogs from talk to young people. They say not enough is being done to protect them. What is being done? Where are we?
Yeah. And I agree, and we agree that we're not doing enough. Frankly, this is an epidemic that's happening across the country. We know that right now, we're striving to graduate as many of our children in our high schools because we have one of the lowest graduation rates in the country. But we can't underestimate how our children feel in their schools. If our children don't feel safe, if they don't feel connected with the adults in the building, so that if something happens, whether it's a bullying event or something else, those children are not going to succeed in school. And so we know that. So we're providing a lot of training to our staff, but frankly, we need the help of our community. We need our parents, we need our children to work with us. We have initiatives like Flip the Script, which I think is going to be a game changer for us. But frankly, we need to have it in more schools. But initiatives like that, Positive Behavior Supports, PBS, is another national program that really changes the cultures of buildings. But frankly, with 357 schools and 309,000 students, we can't do this alone. We need our parents to join us. We need our children to help us in the buildings, and we need to know when those trusts, when there isn't trust in the building, frankly, because if the children don't feel comfortable reporting it, it ain't going to get solved.
Okay, so here's my question. At least I'm going to get to you because you're bobbing your head yes, but I'm going to be honest with you, and I hope you don't take offense at this. Is that just a cop out on the part of the school district? You say, yeah, something more needs to be done. When is it being done? Shouldn't town halls like this be done in every single school in our community? The one thing that I'll be honest, the one thing that bothers me, most people know I have an elementary school that bears my name, and I'm only saying that because I love my kids in my school. I do love my kids, but the parents are involved. And we're not a rich school by any stretch of the imagination, but the parents are involved. We have the PTA in here, and I'm going to talk to the PTA in a few minutes. But it bothers me that we don't see this whole group coming together. It's easy just to say, we know it's a problem, but we're working on it. Don't we need to stop working and do it and get it done?
And I think that's fair. I think that's really fair. Now, bullying, like you said, it's existed before, but now it's at a different level because of technology, because of network media, like Facebook, Twitter, etc. So I think we have to take it a lot more seriously. Frankly, when all of us were growing up in schools, and we had bullying in our schools, but it wasn't at this type of level. And frankly, for our district, we've grown so fast in the last decade. And right now, finally, we're stabilizing in our growth. This is the right time for us to ensure that we're making those connections with the community. And frankly, we are doing a lot of training. We are working very hard. But like I said before, this problem is so big that we know we can't do it alone. And we know that we need our parents, and we need to work with our children. And again, we need to make sure that there's relationships in our buildings. And I'll tell you, our district is not unique. I came from Chicago, 410,000 students. And very large district, third largest in the country. they're struggling with this. New York, the largest district with 1 million children, is struggling with it. LA is struggling with it.
I bet there isn't a school district any place in America that's not struggling with it.
That's right.
Go on, you were saying something. Go on.
That's right. I think that admitting that there's a problem is a giant first step. Excuse me, and I don't think that should be minimalized. But I think that there are some attitudes that need to be changed. Unfortunately, there are still people that believe that bullying is a rite of passage. And that is
Wow.
a difficult
Do you mean
step
that?
to overcome.
Do you mean that?
Yes,
you
I
really
do. There have always been the mean girls, and incidentally, girls are not behind in this at all. The mean girls are a pretty strong force. But, you know, get back there, be a man, son, stand up to them. We don't know what our children here are going home to with well-meaning parents, but with attitudes that just really don't work anymore. Teachers, parents need to be given the tools gently, not hit over the head with it, because everybody comes to the table with certain attitudes that come from their life experiences. But I would not minimize this first step. I think it's very important. But schools have to admit that there's a problem. The sweeping under the rug just isn't going to cut it anymore.
Okay, you deal with this on a daily basis.
On a daily basis.
On a daily
yes.
basis. At Del Sol, you're probably no different than Valley or Gorman or any of the other high schools in town. It's pretty powerful, isn't it?
Bullying is pervasive throughout schools. As an elementary, middle school, and now high school principal, it's there. It might not be so, well, in high school what we're seeing is more cyberbullying, more texting, more things happening on the internet. So yes, we are very aware, and we have admitted as a staff that there is a problem. We have the Human Relations Club on campus that is dealing with this. The advisor of the Human Relations Club wanted flip the script. I was here 2 days and he introduced himself and said, "My name is Mr. Ramiro Martinez. I need you to sign these papers." And I'm just sitting there going, what is it? You know, I want to be thorough. What is going on? And then before I know it, then I've got a slew of teachers in there going, and now we're going to do challenge day. And I'm going, wait a minute, wait a minute. And then my first question as an administrator was, is this core impact? Is this going to affect curriculum and instruction? Because I have to protect the time of teachers and students.
But if you have students who are fearful...
Right. And then, then
Okay.
comes the discussion of, what are you talking about? This is going to help kids in the long run. And I said, but is it just for bullies? So even as an administrator, I had to educate myself on what is all this, especially at this level, which does need to occur, and I'm glad it's happening at Del Sol.
You mentioned a word, education. Madam Attorney General, are we educated enough to deal with this issue? Or has it been sweet-talked for so long that we need to re-educate ourselves in order to fight it?
Sure. Steve, I don't think it's an issue of not doing enough or re-education. It's constant education. That's what we're talking about, because it's not going to be cured overnight. There's always going to be new kids coming through the school system. It's a constant education that we need to work on. And let me just also talk a little bit about bullying has evolved with this new technology. And the fact that you have somebody who's anonymous at the other end of that internet somewhere in cyberspace that is being mean to other individuals, that's a new challenge for all of us and how to deal with it. I know from my perspective in law enforcement, we are able to, once we get the complaint, try to track down an IP address and shut that down and find those individuals. But for the principals, the teachers, everybody else, it's a new area and a new way for us to start thinking and educating our kids that being anonymous and being mean is not going, we're not going to accept it.
But there's a certain amount of hiding, cyber-wise, that they feel comfortable in bullying. I mean, let's be honest. If I can hide with some strange name that's not my name in cyberspace, on Facebook or Twitter, whatever it is, then I feel comfortable that I can bully you because I'm anonymous in actuality. but it's not anonymous. The harm that's created is not anonymous.
And that's the education we have to get to our kids. Those people that are bullies to understand it. But it's going to require us all working together to constantly evolve with this technology and the bullying that is occurring. But the education needs to be constant.
And Steve, I would just add that one of the things we cannot minimize is that, frankly, our children, especially children who live in poverty, especially children who don't, just happen to not have the advantages of other, that they just frankly, either they live in poverty or just their background. So many of our children, they don't, when something happens to them, they almost don't feel the sense of entitlement or that self-esteem to say, this is wrong. This has to be reported. That's something that we have to work with our families with. And frankly, as our community has gone with the recession and the economic times that are happening, it's gotten tougher for our families. And I believe that's also affecting the self-esteem of our children. And frankly, they become victims in that process.
Okay.
It's a comprehensive approach.
Go on.
We've talked about law enforcement, we've talked about legislation and awareness, and all of these components are so important. It's important to have this town hall. It's important to have programming for kids in schools. But to really get to the base of it is to reach these kids when they're younger and to work with programs that begin K through 5 and teach respect among kids, and to give our teachers and our parents the resources and the language to deal with this issue.
HRC has led the way in that, and I'll be honest, I'm very proud that you're part of this panel. You've led the way, but it's not been an easy issue. Yeah, we're involved with the center, which does a great job in our community. But when you talk to the center, they have a specific group that deals just with teens. And when you listen to them, and you listen to those teens that are bullied day after day after day after day after day. We just had a pride parade in Las Vegas. Very big pride parade. And I talked to the young people after the parade on Saturday at the event. And it was the first time they had been out in public to be part of something without the fear of being ostracized, being called names, all of those things at one time. It's not an easy task.
No, it's daunting, and especially when you think about a school district of this size. Our program is called Welcoming Schools, and it's been piloted in about 5 school districts throughout the country very successfully, but they've been much smaller school districts. So we're working with the school district in sort of a hybrid model with another anti-bullying program. And what we hope to do is pilot the program on a small scale, but then at the same time provide education and resources that are available to every teacher in the district. So even though we aren't introducing this in a pilot in every school, every teacher will have those resources.
Okay, Kimberly Tate and Allison Turner are the current and past president of the PTA. And I have to ask you, ladies, sounds like an easy question, but it's not. You deal with parents all the time.
Yes.
Do parents just want to ignore this? Do parents just want to let it go away? Are they afraid to confront their own children today about what's going on with bullying?
I would say no, parents don't want to ignore this. I think, as one of the panelists said, it's a matter of providing resources and education and keep re-educating our parents. At PTA, we have been advocating for children and youth for years, and this past legislative season, we helped advocate for the cyberbullying, cyber texting laws, and that's something that we continue to do in PTA to help educate our parents about bullying and matters that affect their children that they may not be aware of on a daily basis.
But, and I don't mean to be mean here, but the number of parents involved in PTA is smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. In our community, I don't even know if you can find a PTA in a high school anymore. You can in elementary school,
Yep.
maybe in middle school,
You still can in high school as well.
not as much.
That is true.
How are you going to get them to then react to stop this bullying if they don't want to become involved with you?
That's
Come
a
on.
great question. Go ahead.
I'd like to go back to what one of the earlier panelists was talking about. I believe your program is called Welcoming Schools.
It's a great program.
Well, ironically, Welcoming Schools is also the very first one of the nationally recognized and implemented 6 standards for family school partnerships. They have been part of Nevada law in one form or another for quite some time now. I have to tell you that in, 10, 12 years of work, I have yet to find more than a handful of teachers or administrators in the Clark County School District who have ever heard of the 6 standards for family school partnerships, much less, even though it is supposed to be part of the school district as well. So I think we have a lot of barriers to parents, even from the schools themselves. The other thing I'd like to suggest is we might need to go back, even for, I'm sure, a very learned and experienced audience, and describe what is bullying.
Cool. Okay.
May I?
Don't.
No?
I'm going to leave that to the Attorney General. Okay? Okay. All right. Now I'm going to leave it to you.
Well,
And then I'll go to Josh, because I'm sure he has different ideas and maybe different definitions. Bullying.
sure,
Thank you, ladies.
there is a definition in our statutes, but in general, the definition of bullying would be using means of harassing or intimidation of another individual in general. When we're talking about cyberbullying, obviously that is using some computer or some type of technology to harass and intimidate another individual. For purposes of our state statute, it is a crime. And it is a crime to knowingly threaten threaten bodily harm or death to another pupil or a student or another individual, which could be either a misdemeanor or a gross misdemeanor. So it depends on how you define it, but in general terms, it is the intimidation or harassment of another individual by any type of means.
Okay, so that, Josh, I'm going to lead to you. So that can be anything. That can be, I'm walking down the hallway and I'm a student and I see a student that has a different lifestyle and I say to him, faggot. Bullying. I see a student that is heavier than other students and call him fatty. Bullying is not just pushing, shoving, cyber. Bullying has different levels. And I think sometimes that as parents, as a community, we forget how those words alone can destroy.
Sure, and frankly, teachers and parents, without being educated on this issue, they tend to forget or not know how to react to some of those smaller incidents that build over time, that a kid is bullied and bullied and bullied day in and day out and that doesn't want to come to school anymore or goes from getting A's to getting D's. So it really is a zero tolerance policy within a school for teachers and for parents to teach the youth, so that if someone, in classroom is a second grader says, hey, that's gay, you're so gay. Right now, teachers don't necessarily have the resources to react to that and know, what do I say? What do I say in that instance? And so that's the type of training. And it may seem like, that's a simple answer, but there's more to it than that. And it's about teaching children how to embrace diversity and knowing that families come in all shapes and sizes and that we have to respect one another. And that's the base that has to be created so that you don't get to the bullying incident in the first place.
Our wonderful PTA members used a word and said that there are barriers. I think it was the word that she used. Maybe it's wrong of me, but I think they're not just barriers. They're gaps, huge gaps. When we come back, I want to talk to the superintendent about the gaps. Do we have zero tolerance? I'm going to talk to a young man who is a NASCAR driver. Wow. He's a NASCAR driver. But what he had to do in his life to where he is is maybe a good lesson for a lot of people. And I think it's important for us to talk about the differences, to talk about where we are. So when we come back, we'll hear from our studio audience. Flip the script. It's time to stop the bullying. We'll be right back.
This girl is very pretty. It's inciting feelings of jealousy in me. We should pick on her.
I'm insecure about some things, so I think we should put some me stuff on here. Maybe even some lies, too.
Yeah.
I just want to be accepted by you both, so I'm going to send this to my friends so they think I'm cool.
Kids bully for all kinds of reasons. None of them are good. Find ways to get involved at flipthescriptnow.org.
Cox Las Vegas is proud to support our community through Cox Charities, which awards grants to organizations dedicated to children, families, and education.
Working in partnership with United Way, Cox Charities includes a committee of employees who review grant applications and select the deserving recipients.
We're proud to say this year, 37 nonprofit organizations shared over $170,000 in grants funded by our Cox Las Vegas employees and partners. To learn more about Cox Charities, go to cox.com/Las Vegas.
Hey, it's embarrassing to be tackled by someone smaller than me. I look weak and effeminate, so now I'm overcompensating.
I'd also be very ashamed by that. I'm not waiting until it happens to me to make you feel small.
My dad taught me to be the alpha male, so now I'm gonna knock a tray out of your hands at lunch.
Kids bully for all kinds of reasons. None of them are good. Know your kids' friends and monitor their social networking. Find more tips at flipthescriptnow.org.
Sometimes you
Welcome back. I know we have a lot of questions, and we have some experts within the audience as well. I'm going to go to one right now. Allison, you talked about the definition of bullying. We heard two definitions, but do you want to raise a question too, or raise a point?
I do. You know, there are many, many different definitions for bullying, of course, but there are three things that almost everyone agrees upon that they have in common. That is that bullying involves an imbalance of power. There's someone who is at least...
I have control over you.
Yes. Perceived power versus perceived lack of power. There is an intent to harm, and I think we sort of touched on that. And the third thing is, and it startled me, my 14-year-old high school freshman actually understood this before, when I checked with him about what was going on in his high school here in Clark County. Bullying is not a one-time thing. And so I did hear what you were saying and the sensitivity you were trying to bring to some of those questions, but bullying as a process is not a one-time thing. It's not an argument. It is a process.
But that process starts with one person saying one thing to this person. Now it's safe for a second person to say that same thing to that person, and it builds over and over and over again.
I agree. The only distinction I was trying to make is that you know, the harm of one comment is can be great, but it can be overcome a lot more easily than a true bullying situation, which does go on and on and on. So those are the three things that distinguish it: the imbalance of power, the intent to harm, not just flipping a remark off, and that it is a process, not an event.
Thank you, Allison.
Sure.
Appreciate it.
Anytime.
Okay, Mr. Superintendent, do we have zero tolerance here?
We do, and you know, I'll tell you, this year, myself and Superintendent Jones, you know, we opened up our administrators meeting in August, our administrators kickoff, and we dedicated a whole first hour just to anti-bullying, because it is that important to us. Now, is it executing the way we want it in every school? It isn't. Are we doing trainings and working with our teachers? Absolutely. And I'll tell you, but again, this issue is so big, and it's very important to us, because we know that the only way that we're going to be able to graduate our children and making sure that they have a successful future ahead of them is they got to be in our buildings. We know that. We can't teach them if they're not in our buildings. But we also know that, again, if we don't have the trust level of our children in the buildings, if they're not connected with adults, if we don't have the relationships with our parents, and the reality is, we have parents that are very engaged, and they tell us immediately when something's wrong.
But that's a small number.
Exactly, and I worry about the parents that we never hear from. And those are the children that we frankly lose on a daily basis. And I think together, that's the problem we got to tackle. Because there's too many children that are silent, and there's too many parents that are silent. We're going to do our part to train our staff. But again, we cannot do it alone if we don't know about it.
Okay, Lisa, you're again shaking your head.
Yeah, because we had that hour training, and it brought some things to light, and working with the staff, some of the concerns about bullying on the campus. And I think that it's administrator to administrator, campus to campus. And I know, and please don't be upset with me, but we had a staff meeting.
Who would be upset with you? We're not going to be upset with you.
Well, he's my boss, so we had a staff meeting last week.
But you're safe among us.
A student had written that she felt invisible on our campus.
That's not good.
So I'm going to try to finish this. So I held the bell for about 7 minutes because I felt it was important to talk to the staff about. Because we can't have kids that feel this way. And I read a book to the staff, and it's called Don't Forget Francis. And it gives examples of how we can sometimes forget our kids. Right down to why do we allow them to sit alone at lunch? Why do we allow teachers to allow children to be picked last for a game? Very subtle little things, but things that we have to look for no matter what.
They might be subtle, but they hurt.
But they hurt.
All the same.
And so,
and let me ask you about. He's got an hour training program. That's not enough.
No,
I'll answer the question for everybody in here. I bet nobody in here thinks an hour training program's enough.
No, and I'll agree with you, it's not. But it was enough for me to say, wow, they took an hour of my time that I feel is really important, and I need to know A, B, C, D, E, and F. Why did they take that hour? What did I glean from it? What can I learn from it? Then I was appointed to Del Sol, and not even 24 hours, I've got a teacher in my office saying, Mrs. Primus, I'm from the Human Relations Club, and these are things that we have to do, and let me tell you why. So if it hadn't been for that hour, I would have been going, get out of here.
and the message we want to send, the message we want to send to our schools, because in that meeting we had every single principal, every single assistant principal, every dean of our district, every department head of our district, and we wanted to send a message that, and again, we kicked off our whole meeting with anti-bullying. And so, again, we wanted to show people that this is going to be a priority, but it's going to be an ongoing process. Because we have 18,000 teachers, and we're in the process of training them. But again, it's going to be an ongoing process. And like I said earlier, it's not something that the district can do by itself. We're going to need to partner with the community, and we need to partner with our children, frankly.
The HOPE program is a program that starts after school. Mm-hmm. and it really, right now, is for an elementary school. Mm-hmm. Is that where we need to start looking at this?
Definitely the elementary age is the best time to start addressing it, because that's when our children are more impressionable and we can make a change in their behaviors. And actually, with the Village of Hope, what we're doing, and kind of as one of the panelists alluded to, is that we're not just addressing the needs of one of those students, but we're working with their family as a whole, so providing those wraparound services so that they can be successful in the classroom. And so whether or not they have a sibling that attends middle school or high school, we're not going to exclude them from participating.
Go on, Sharita.
But we're going to
ask a question, and David, all of you, I'm going to ask the question, but go on.
But we're allowing them to come and also partake in the activities that we're providing for our students.
Okay. There's a great program. It's called DARE. Mm-hmm. It's a wonderful program. I love the program. I think Metro does an incredible job with the program. I think they do. And the students that go through DARE program in our elementary schools are better because of it. I always ask the question, where's the follow-up? Where does it go? What happens to it? No place. You can start the Village of Hope in an elementary school. But if we don't take it to that next step, aren't we just giving lip service to the problem that we've got to really grab a hold of and start? I mean, David, it's been part of your life forever. You cannot tell me if you start something in elementary school but you don't continue it in middle and high school, it's done.
Well, you need to have programs that address the specific age and grade levels. So what works certainly within an elementary setting doesn't work in the middle school, and the middle school program doesn't work in the high school. So you need specific programs that are directed to each of those groups.
Taylor Barton's a young man. If you've ever gone out to the great racetrack that we have here, you've seen this young man race. He is a NASCAR driver. Very jealous that he's a NASCAR driver. And I'm not. But he's a NASCAR driver. I had a chance to meet this wonderful young man. And what I found out in talking to him is he's a NASCAR driver in a lot of ways because of what he had to do in his life to stand up for himself. Because standing next to me is a victim of bullying. Big time. And now he wants to get the message out that you can survive it and you can get through it. And I don't know if we always have that message. Taylor?
Well, one of the things with bullying is it has to do with image and kids not feeling safe in the school, self-esteem. So what I have developed is a whole social media called Text It Forward to combat bullying on the whole social media platform, to encourage kids to send positive messages, and they will be rewarded for it. The only time kids get media attention is if somebody kills somebody or stabs somebody, okay? We never give attention to somebody that's doing good. I haven't seen it enough. Another thing, too, is the principal at Del Sol mentions Challenge Day. It's already been done with 1 million kids, middle school and high school. It's where kids go through an experience and they feel safe, peaceful, and they celebrate their lives. And the only reason a bully is being bullied is because that's what they're taught to be.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
How did you get to where you are? How did you get past it as a youngster? We've got young people here from this school and other schools who, a lot of them, maybe they don't say it, but believe they won't get through it. How did you get through it?
I did a lot of suffering through my younger ages because of this school system. A lot of suffering. Thank God I have great parents. We're the 3rd largest district for single-family homes. Most kids do not have a support system. And that's what I'm here to bring, is a support system for these kids to where they feel safe. It was tremendous, but I kept going. I kept fighting. I had parents that believed in me. I had that support system, and we don't have that for the younger generation these days because parents are out working, trying to pay for the homes. And so I'm here to bring that support system to Clark County School District.
I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you, Dan. Do we have the support system? Is the support system there? We're going to talk to some young people in a little bit who will take your seats on this panel. I'm curious what they think about the support system. But do you believe the support system is here? If not, what do we have to do? Where do we have to go? What I don't want is this town hall, because they're watching in Ely and Elko. They have the same problems. I don't want this to just end up on deaf ears. I said before the program, if we can just start it, if we can just start it and get from a monologue to a dialogue, then we've done it. We've started it. What do we have to do. I'm going to save you for the end. Lisa.
Well, we're going to build it, and we're going to build it starting with Taylor Barton. And you're coming to my school Wednesday. We're going to hook up, and we're going to make the model. And that's what we're doing.
I'll say that we've got to be committed and really be ready to roll up our sleeves and get to work and, you know, find out what it is that our children are going through and build that rapport with them so that they are comfortable to have that dialogue and know that there's someone there that they definitely can trust, and to keep, you know, plugging in the positives. You know, what we're doing at Village of Hope is we're teaching them about self-esteem, helping to build their confidence and exposing them to new activities and different things that they may have never ever gotten a chance to participate in. So we're reinforcing those things and also giving the parents the tools to help reinforce what we're teaching them and to be supportive.
That's so important. Giving the parents the tools, giving them the way to help their own young person build that self-esteem. I talk to schools, and I know it's going to be hard for everybody to believe, but there's still business people in America that have about that much self-esteem because they were probably bullied early in their lifetime. Self-esteem is critical. Self-esteem is everything that is at the core, and we have to have those tools. You're shaking your head.
Absolutely. You know, one of the things that I've been very impressed is that I think when we ask for help, our community steps up. I'll give you an example. You know, the superintendent and I were very concerned about, you know, just how our community was going to react when we shared with them how many of our 12th graders were at risk of not graduating.
How many?
45%, 9,000 of our 20,000 12th graders have not passed the state proficiency exam.
45%.
45%. And we said, you know, we have to share that with our community. And when we went out to our community and said, look, some of these kids are getting so discouraged that they're not coming to school and they only have one more year left, they actually helped us to go find them. And right now we have the largest 12th grade class because of the fact that our community has stepped up. And I'll give you another example.
Wait a minute, don't go.
But just to finish this, you know, we actually, an organization, Ready for Life, and the Workforce Development Board even stepped up and said, look, you know, we want to help you. We want to get you resources so you can get mentors for our kids, so you can get graduate advocates. So we're working with them right now to try to find 2,000 mentors for our 12th graders. So to me, that's just one example that if we can come together,
sign me up,
we can help all of our kids.
But what you did, by the way, and for those who do not know, what they did is they took business people in the community and they went door to door and knocked on young people's doors who haven't been attending schools and have dropped out to say, come back.
That's right.
What I want, though, is for that to happen with bullying.
I agree.
We've got to start knocking on doors, pounding on doors, and saying, stop the bullying. Josh?
Well, and that's what it is the community resources. One of the reasons that we're able to do the work in partnership with the school district is we have a local foundation that gave us a $100,000 grant to do these pilots. And in these pilots, you develop a local steering committee for each and every school that you're implementing this pilot. And it involves teachers and parents and community leaders and people from all the various churches. So it's just a team effort so that everyone is working on the problem. And that's what it takes.
It is, everybody working together. I have a young man in the audience, and I'll tell you now, everybody, he's a little bit nervous. But you wanted to make a statement or a question?
Yeah. How do kids feel like if they see another kid in school getting bullied, and then they wish they can tell an adult, but they don't have the strength to do it? How do we do this?
Great question. How do you do it? Go on.
Most bullying situations, actually, there are often three parties: the bullier, the victim, if you will, and the bystander. And I think what this young man's question is addressing is the role of the bystander. And again, we have to make sure that there is a safe environment for that. The old-fashioned word would be tattletale. We don't want the bystander to feel that he or she is a tattletale. He can be, or she can be, a very important part of this whole scenario. And again, it has to be they have to feel safe. And one program may not be the key. It may take another program or another program. I'm partial, we have a No Place for Hate, which is the ADL's program. One size will not fit all. And when I have talked to groups of junior high, and you start off by saying, we used to say sticks and stones will break my bones, but names will hurt you. And we have to keep at this. But certainly, excellent question. The bystander can be a very valuable person in the whole scenario of bullying.
Senator.
Well, I'm certainly saddened by the fact that in these tough economic times, we've had to cut back the funding for education. And that was a really difficult vote to make to reduce that. So today we have schools that have far fewer counselors that would be available to provide services, as well as school nurses, and we even have teachers that have to double as custodians in some cases to keep their classrooms together because the classroom is overcrowded. So more funding would certainly go a long way to address the bullying issue.
Okay, but
indirectly.
But the reality is, Senator, that we'll never have enough money. State of Nevada will never have enough money. I don't care what we ever do, we'll never have enough money. I don't see personally that the economy is going to change that dramatically in the next 18 months to 3 years.
Right.
If that.
Definitely.
It's not money. Maybe it's me. Catherine, I'm going to come to you, but maybe it's me. It's not money. My heart doesn't respond by dollars and cents. My heart responds when I hear Taylor, the emotion in his voice, because his problem was ignored. This young man, this wonderful student who comes up and says, I see it. How do I stop it? Where do I go? That's not money. I don't think it's ever money. I think it's what we do as a community. I think it's all the people in this audience that are shaking their head because it is us as a community. I think what they want to know is how. Without the money, how? How does a mom or a dad in a single-parent family, a traditional family, a guardian? We have a lot of different families now in Southern Nevada. How? We have great organizations, ACLU, Anti-Defamation League, HRC, great organizations. But I'll be honest. I see this program here, and this program here, and this program here, and this program here. I don't see how. How? Tell me how.
It starts with a dialogue. It starts with all of us coming together, because you're right. I think this is a great community, and even though we don't have all the funding that we need, we still have a lot of resources. We have a lot of, again, our community, they volunteer in our buildings. Like I said, I have no doubt that we're going to find at least 2,000 mentors for our 12th graders. I have no doubt about it, because this community is that type of community that wants to give. So I think it's, for us, it's asking for help. I think it's having a dialogue. I think it's bringing all the community organizations together and focusing us, because I think all of us, again, we all want to do the right thing, but it's coming together and just doing it.
It's bringing a sense of urgency, and I think that we're reaching that, but you know, as an organization that was trying to get involved with Clark County School District to get an anti-bullying program in place, you know, it was 18 months of dialogue. And I'm so pleased that we have a new superintendent that grabbed hold of it and spent an hour talking to all of his principals this year. And I'm so glad that that made an impact at your school, so that you were able to address the issue that came up.
You have the HRC anti-bullying program in your school.
Yes, we do.
How many other high schools have it, Josh?
We are only K through 5, but there's components of our program that can be all the way up through 12th grade. There's too many times when there's a parent with a young child that's been bullied, and we were just talking about it before the program started, where there's a bullying incident and the parent goes to the school looking for help, and the administration or the teacher that was involved does not recognize or won't recognize the problem. So I think setting the tone at the top, letting them know that this is an absolute priority, I think that we're already making great strides.
Will you commit after this program? Will you commit? And I'd love to hear from the other superintendents in Washoe County and all the other counties around the state that hopefully are watching this program. Will you commit here after this program that you'll make this a priority for us in Southern Nevada?
Absolutely, and we showed that message, with our kickoff with their administrators. We're going to continue to do it with actions. We tell people, don't just listen to what we say, look at what we do and how we do it. And this is a priority for us. We know, again, we cannot graduate all of our children if they don't feel safe, if they don't come to school. It's not going to work.
When we came back from this segment, there was a fact that came up. Madam Attorney General, and said that 48% of young people are fearful to go to the bathroom in their school for fear of being bullied. You've put together a great organization statewide, made up of various different organizations and people, to fight this bullying effort, similar to what you did with the meth effort within our state. Where do they go? How do we do this? How do we stop? How do we tell a member of the PTA, a parent at home, whose child is fearful to go to school, how do we tell them we can help?
Sure. I think just the demonstration and the discussion today shows that the help is there. I can't say it better than the panelists have said it here. It starts with a dialogue. It requires a community. And when we're talking about a community, it requires not just everybody at the local level. It requires our legislators. It requires our political leaders. It requires people at the state level to support what's happening at the local level. We are seeing what's happening here in Clark County. I will tell you that there are similar stakeholders in every community in our state who have just the same concerns, who have come together to address it. It's going to be unique to their communities. There are programs out there. We can do more. We're not doing enough. And I think this is the start of that discussion and that awareness. The first step in that prevention for any type of bullying or cyberbullying is the education and the awareness. And that starts with the dialogue at all levels in our state. But we may dialogue. The most important piece of all of that is the follow-up. And so I'm glad to hear today that the commitment, not only from the people on this panel, but all of the audience members that are here today as well. It shows me that there is a concern, there is a commitment to try to find solutions to this issue we are dealing with in our state. I'm committed, as the Attorney General, to develop this statewide initiative and work with everybody in our communities to support and do the follow-up. And I think that's what it takes, is this constant talking, this dialogue, this training, this education. It's a constant. It is not a solution that we can find overnight. There's not a magic bullet. And it has to be a constant community dialogue. Because you're right, there will never be enough funding to go around. And it requires the collaboration to really, really come together as a community and address the issue.
It didn't start overnight. It's never going to end overnight. It will only end when we open up the discussion and create the dialogue and change it from that monologue so that 14-year-old can become a lesson and not a victim. To each of you, thank you very much for being on our panel. It's been very, very eye-opening for me, hopefully for our audience here and throughout the state of Nevada. We thank you for your time and your effort. In a moment, when we come back, we're going to change and hear from students, those impacted those who had to deal with bullying, those who want and are demanding for something to be done. We'll be right back.
This girl.
We've heard from those in our state dealing with the issues at their level. But what about the young people? What about those impacted by bullying each and every day in their schools, in their homes, with their friends, with those they care about? We welcome our very, very special panel now. Aaron Diaz is a student at Valley High School. Welcome, Aaron. Joshua Hudapi is a student at Silverado High School. Paulo Vasquez is a student at Rancho High School. Alex Bybee is a student at Bonanza High School. Michaela Larkey is a student right here from Del Sol High School. And Randy Lundquist is currently Miss Summerlin and a student at UNLV. To all of you, welcome to our program. I'm going to ask you right off the top. That last panel is gone. So I want honesty. What did you think of what they had to say? Go on.
I felt as if they had great input. They knew the urgency of this problem. They knew the fact that this problem needed to be faced. I just felt as if personally we need to see it take more into action. They have a lot of great ideas. It's just the action needs to be taken now.
Is there a different level here? Okay. So here you have our state leaders, Attorney General, a chief enforcement officer in the state. Here, we have students like you that are here. Is there a different level of understanding, a different level of concern? Yeah, come on.
You want to go for it? I'll go for it. I do think there's a different level of understanding. We're in the school every day. We're in the setting. We experience the climate. And I think our perspective and the aspect that we see every day is a little bit more immediate than what they see from their level.
Her and I were talking. It's just frustrating for us because, like you were saying, you don't need money to help solve this problem. You need teachers who care. And just because you're a teacher doesn't mean you're exempt from making us feel like we're safe or that we're in an environment conducive to learning, because we deserve those things. And growing up, going to school is something that we have to do. We didn't force you to be a teacher.
Come on.
No, I agree with both of them. We're here every day, 5 days a week. We see it on a daily basis. I'm not saying that they don't know the problem. They know. But I'm going to go ahead and say we know it better.
We live it.
You live it.
And if you live it, you're going to know a little bit more.
The superintendent said some really good things, the right things to say. And I believe that he believes we need to do that. But you all represent different schools. I know your principal cares about this. Can you say that about your schools? Do you feel comfortable that this issue, bullying, I'm sure some of you, if not all of you, have been bullied. Do you think it's at the level that it should be in your school? Be honest.
I think posters are nice gestures. I think news segments on our broadcast show are nice gestures, and
this is a nice gesture.
This is a nice gesture. We heard our expert panelists talk about it starts with a dialogue. I think it starts with so much more than that.
Like what?
I think it starts with the bystanders and the teachers standing up for something. It's more than a dialogue, it's action. And I think we need to just skip right into that.
Go on. Do you think it's easier to ignore it than to confront it?
Yes.
Do you think it's easier to say we're doing something than actually do something? You're shaking your head.
Yeah, I think that you can definitely agree with a lot of people, like what they're saying, and definitely stand behind a cause. But if you're not taking action to make a change with that cause, then you're basically being stagnant and you're not going to do anything about it. So there's no difference being made.
You know, bullies are, by their own nature, bullies. They feel comfortable in their position. Victims are indeed that. There's a lot of young people that are watching. There are a lot of families that are watching. You live this every day. How do you break that cycle? What should we do to break that cycle? It is a cycle. If you allow it to go on today, it'll go on tomorrow. If you allow it to go on tomorrow, it'll go on the next day, and the day after that, and the day after that, and the day after. There are people who are going to watch this and hopefully hear from you some words of wisdom to help break the cycle.
I think one of the most important things is my principal always tells us in the morning during morning announcements is Valley High School is a climate of respect. Respect each other, respect yourselves, and respect the school. I think that's an important message to distribute out to the kids, knowing that they go on throughout the day, respecting each other. And I think one of the most important things that we try at Valley High School is to create a climate of inclusion as well, a climate where everybody's on the same level, a climate or an environment where kids feel comfortable with each other, where kids are indeed Valley Vikings, not they don't belong to any certain group. They belong to the school. They're members of the school, and that you have to create a common ground between the students so one student doesn't feel superior to the other.
You don't want to define your school by cliques. You want to be, Del Sol Dragons. You don't want to have the jocks and the pretty girls or the nerds. You want one group. You don't want a bunch.
Okay. That's been there since I was in school. That was a long time ago.
I think so. Like, it's fine to have the athletes and the drama kids, but it's understanding how to accept everybody for who they are and being okay with, well, I play volleyball, but you're in the band. But cool, let's be friends. Let's hang out. It's growing up, your teachers and your parents teaching you to respect others and to be okay with the differences that surround us all.
Yeah,
I think
you just don't want it to define you completely. Like, I'm this, so I can't be this. Why can't you be two things?
Okay, I'm going to grab my microphone. I'm going to come down here because during the break, I had a student ask me a question. I'm going to have her pose the question to you. Come on, stand up. I know you're embarrassed. Stand up. Go on. Ask the question.
Well, what if you're, one of the students that just sit in the background, don't do anything, just are, a nobody, and you're being bullied, but you're too scared to stand up for yourself?
Wow. Go on.
I would say that was me, probably.
That was you?
I mean, I was pretty quiet, kept to myself. I came from a very loving family, but I danced. I wasn't really involved in school. We didn't have dance in school, and so I was very independent and kind of very ostracized by myself, on my own terms. And I don't know what I did. I don't know why they chose me, but for some reason it was still me. And I think the one thing that kept me going was knowing that I had a greater purpose. I had things to look forward to, and there was something going on with those kids who decided to pick on me that I still don't know why it was me, but for some reason, because you choose to not be involved, they think that you're the easier target.
Once you become a target in school, you're all students. Do you stay a target? How do you break from being that target?
I think that one of the biggest combats to that is getting involved. Getting involved in school is a really big deal. Through student council, through HRC, through any clubs, any extracurriculars. It's very important to get involved because you build this network of friends and this network of supporters that when they do see things happen to you, they're the bystanders that will say something. So for the person sitting in the back of the classroom, for the person being picked on, get involved, build a network of friends to surround you, and they'll lift you up.
I think I'm gonna take the other standpoint on this. I I think it's time to challenge the students to actually go out and reach out to these students that they know are being victims. Students see it every day. Students see kids being picked on. Students, although are scared to step in and be that person to tell the bully no, to tell that person leave him alone or leave her alone. I think it's time to challenge students to participate and challenge students to reach out to those kids that are sitting in the back alone. Walk over to them when they're at lunch, say, hey, how are you doing today? Can we have lunch with you? Do you want to have lunch with us? When students see that other students are reaching out and expressing like their interest in those students, they're gonna reach out and express their interest to those students too. All it takes is one person to step up and go out and reach out to these students. So I think it's time to challenge the students that see it every day to step up and go and, you know, be the mediator in this situation. Go out and accept those students and bring them into their circle of friends and make sure that they feel included and don't have a group to pick on them. Because like you said, when you're alone, you're the easier target. Everybody's gonna pick on you alone, but when the students reach out and include them, then that's when they become less of a target.
Taylor, you were emotional a little bit ago, very emotional about what you had to go through as a youngster in this school district. I'm sure you reached out to some for help and you were turned down. What advice can you give?
I was turned down. To be honest, I tried taking my life twice, okay? That's how serious this problem is. We tell our teachers that they should have more responsibility. We just heard that they're taking on more jobs than they can handle. I don't think it's their fault that, you know, they're too busy to handle this problem. And when we tell kids, hey, you know, be nice to each other, or that's like education, you know, we're educating a person and giving them a piece of paper to be nice to somebody. Somebody has to go through an emotional experience. It's like riding a bike. I can tell you how to ride a bike as long as you want, but until you experience and get on that bike and you ride it and learn for yourself, we're still gonna have clicks. So I think having an experiment or experience that goes into schools and that shows these kids what they're actually doing and give them the tools to go on better throughout their life and stop those clicks.
Thanks, Taylor. We've got a judge here, by the way, who's listening to all of this, and you know, I think my good friend the judge sees the after effects of what bullying does, because I think if you're a bully and you continue to be a bully, it will have an impact, and you'll eventually see him in court. We're going to take a break for a couple of seconds. When we come back, I want each of you to think about if you could give one bit of advice, what would that advice be? If you had an opportunity to talk to one bully or one victim, what would your advice be? When we come back, we'll talk more about bullying. Our young people feel it, they see it, they know it. Stay with us.
This girl is very pretty. It's inciting feelings of jealousy in me. We should pick on her.
I'm insecure about some things, so I think we should put some me stuff on here. Maybe even some lies, too.
Yeah. I just want to be accepted by you both, so I'm going to send this to my friends so they think I'm cool.
Kids bully for all kinds of reasons. None of them are good. Find ways to get involved at flipthescriptnow.org.
Cox Las Vegas is proud to support our community through Cox Charities, which awards grants to organizations dedicated to children, families, and education.
Working in partnership with United Way, Cox Charities includes a committee of employees who review grant applications and select the deserving recipients.
We're proud to say this year 37 nonprofit organizations shared over $170,000 in grants funded by our Cox Las Vegas employees and partners. To learn more about Cox Charities, go to cox.com/Las Vegas.
Hey, it's embarrassing to be tackled by someone smaller than me. I look weak and effeminate, so now I'm overcompensating.
I'd also be very ashamed by that. I'm not waiting until it happens to me to make you feel small.
My dad taught me to be the alpha male, so now I'm gonna knock a tray out of your hands at lunch.
Kids bully for all kinds of reasons. None of them are good. Know your kids' friends and monitor their social networking. Find more tips at flipthescriptnow.org.
Sometimes you need more than 30 seconds to get your point across. With video on demand from Cox Media, time is on your side. Your potential customers can learn more about you on their schedule. They can play, pause, rewind, and rewatch your video 24 hours a day from the comfort of their own living room. You can even have your own channel exclusive to you. Put the power of Cox Media behind your marketing plan. Call 933-2600 to speak with one of our advertising specialists.
As you heard tonight, bullying takes on different forms, but hurts all the same. Flip the Script believes the time has come for young people, families, really all, to look about that and to talk about that. We have a young man next to me who's been very brave to start a program here, but you have a question for the panel.
I was just simply going to ask, I, along with my girlfriend, founded the HRC program here on Del Sol last year. I graduated and I'm trying to keep up with it. How do you guys plan on enforcing anti-bullying organizations at your school? Because, yeah, we talked to the people that were already on the panel and stuff, but it really takes a body of students to enforce those kinds of things. How do you guys plan on doing that?
Good question. Thank you, sir. How do you answer?
I personally plan on starting with the student council and with myself. I think that I need to reach out to those that I think are being bullied, and starting with the student council, them talking to their friends and the other clubs I'm in, like National Honor Society, Clique Club, or French Club. Any little club can really help and get the message across that this really is a problem and we really need to fix it.
Okay, so before we took a break, I asked a question, and I posed it to each of you. If you had the opportunity to make a comment to a bully, to a victim, what would that comment be? I'll begin over here.
I would say this would be more to the victim, because I was both verbally and physically abused by my peers, and I too, like Taylor, went through a time in my life where I would have rather been dead than go to school every day. I went through the motions and the gestures of possibly taking my life, and I never did. And I think going through it, I didn't understand it, but now I'm fighting for these kids, and I just want them to know, don't let the bully win. Don't let them hurt you so bad where you think your life isn't worth living because you get to be my age or you get to be somebody like Taylor, and something that affected your life in such a negative way turns into something so positive. And you could very well be me or be him, and sharing your story and influencing other people. So don't get discouraged that this has to ruin your life, because it surely does not.
Don't let the bully win.
Don't let
Your
the bully
comment.
I think I'd like to pose a question to the bullies and say something along the lines of, how would you feel if you were that person you were bullying? And tell them that they don't have to keep up what they're doing. I feel like a lot of bullies feel like they have to keep it up. They build that reputation, they have to be the bully. But they don't have to. What is it really getting them very far? Do they need to pick on this kid? Do they want to be picked on? If you don't want that, why would you do that to someone else?
Your comment.
I'm going to go ahead and ask a question to the bully, because I think that's where the problem begins, is what's your motivation behind bullying people? I think getting to understand why the bully is doing what they're doing is really important, because sometimes the bully is going through something traumatizing themselves, and it's their outward way of letting out that anger, letting out that frustration on someone else. It's misplaced aggression. And I think connecting with the bully and understanding, why are you doing what you're doing? And that's what I would ask. And then I would go from there and say what you would say. How would you feel if someone else did that to you? So I think we need to get to understand the bullies, because that's where the problem begins.
Your comment.
Yeah, I think they've said it all. Usually bullies are bullies because they've been bullied before, and I feel like if you talk to them and make them understand that, look, you've been through this, why would you like someone else to go through the same thing? I think it stops if the bully understands that it's not right what they're doing, and we just need to go from there. Talk to the bullies because they're usually been bullied themselves. That's why they do it. It makes them feel superior, and that's why they put other people down.
Your comment.
Well, my piece of advice would probably go out to the victims in this situation. I think that my only word would be to just stay strong. I do believe that each of us are created here for a greater purpose or destiny, and we all have an obligation to fulfill that. And so I feel that if we recognize our self-worth and our value, and that we keep our strength and we keep hoping for a better tomorrow, then things will change. And I think it starts with each of us making that change within ourselves and then taking that step further and making action in our communities that we will truly make a difference.
You, my friend, have the last word.
I think I'm going to go ahead and say I'm going to address the victims. I feel as if in this situation the bullies shouldn't be portrayed as victims because even though it's understandable that they may have gone through a situation, they are choosing to go about it the wrong way. My piece of advice would go out to the victims, and I would have to say, don't be afraid to talk to somebody. Don't be afraid to search for an outlet. Don't be afraid to speak to somebody about what's happening, because I guarantee there's somebody nearby them that cares, somebody nearby them that wants to help them, somebody that's there for them, that will help them better the situation. So don't be afraid, don't give up, and don't be afraid to search for an outlet. Go out and search for it. Don't stand by yourself, because there's strength in numbers.
To each of you, I think you're very brave. I want to thank you all for being here, for standing up for this change that has to be made. If we do not flip the script, if we don't change what is currently out there, then my biggest fear is we're going to lose some very talented young people like each of you. And I would hate to see that happen. Thank you very much for being with us tonight. I appreciate that. This whole idea of flip the script is all about making change. Change for young people, change for families, change for students. And when we started this whole idea about flip the script, we thought we couldn't do it without at least attempting to make a big change. And it's called a pledge. Take the pledge to stand up against bullying. But in order for the pledge to really work, we need to have as many people as possible to sign. I'm very proud to say one of the local radio stations here in Las Vegas, and I hope a radio station up in northern Nevada, will now join in, because they want to help. They want to make a change. One of the great friends of our community, and I mean that in all sincerity. This is a gentleman that I've known for a while, and he is a true friend to our community. He is affectionately known as the Morning Zoo. He is Chet Buchanan. I'm very honored that Chet, step in here, Chet, will join us now and talk about what KLUC is going to do to help.
Well, we're really excited to be part of this program, and we want to get together with you, with Cox Communications, and with Flip the Script for the 98.5 KLUC Flip the Script School Takeover. And once again, we hope somebody will get involved up in northern Nevada, because right now, this contest is for all the schools, middle and high schools, public and private, in Clark and Nye counties. It starts 1 week from today. It starts next Monday. And then what we're going to do is take votes for an entire month. Each day the contest starts over. You go to KLUC.com, you take the Flip the Script pledge, and then you vote for your school. I saw some people from Arborview, which is in my neighborhood. I see those guys over there. I'm going to be voting for Arborview. Well, I might spread them around for a few people. But you can vote for your school.
I'm voting for Del Sol.
Every day. You're voting for Del Sol? I'll throw some votes in for Del Sol. I'm going to spread them around for everybody. I love everybody. But here's what you can do. Each day you log on to KLUC.com, you vote for your school. Then each day, a couple of schools get eliminated.
You got
until
about
we
30
get down to
seconds,
one.
so speed this up, my friend.
No, and that's all I have to
Okay.
say until we get down to one. Then the contest ends on November 3rd. On November 4th, we announce a winner, and they will get a concert at their school from a 98.5 KLUC artist. It starts next Monday. Listen to KLUC for more details, and keep watching Cox Cable.
Thank you, my friend.
Thanks,
I do
Steve. Great job.
appreciate it. Our hope is that every young person, every student, every parent, everyone takes the pledge. As I mentioned at the start of tonight's town hall, bullying harms our students, our families, our neighbors, our brothers, our sisters in so many ways. Harm that could last right through adulthood. We must stop this now. We must make a difference. Our hope is tonight is the beginning, a start of a new day. Together, we can make a difference. Take the pledge. Go to flipthescriptnow.org. It all begins with you. Good night.